Jerusalem, the most sacred city on earth. Hey friends! If you're someone who loves history, hidden secrets, and real adventures, stick with us until the end of this video, because we're about to explore a city that has been at the heart of conflicts, prayers, and legends for over 5,000 years, Jerusalem. A city sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. What's the result? Jerusalem has become one of the most controversial places in the world, a city that has changed hands more than 40 times between kingdoms and empires. Unbelievable, right? But wait, where did this legendary city begin? A tiny village by a spring? Really? Yes. Around 3000 BCE, people settled by the Gihon Spring and laid the foundation of a city that would later become the spiritual center for billions. By 2000 BCE, even the Egyptians recorded its name in their documents. The Canaanites built stone walls around it to protect their precious spring. Then it came under the control of New Kingdom Egypt, at a time when Egypt's borders stretched all the way to what is now Turkey. But no power lasts forever. When Egypt weakened, small kingdoms emerged, including the Israelites, who according to the Bible, under King David's leadership, captured Jerusalem and made it their capital. David's son, Solomon, built a magnificent temple, etching Jerusalem forever into history. And this was just the beginning of the story. If you love videos like this, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because we're diving into history's few have told. More epic tales are coming your way. Inside the city, Solomon's temple didn't just add grandeur, it made Jerusalem the main cultural and religious center for Judaism. But less than a century later, something happened that changed the fate of the Israelites forever. The kingdom split into two. Northern Israel kept the name Israel, and southern Judah had Jerusalem as its capital. For the next 400 years, Jerusalem remained the heart of Jewish religion and culture, but peace? Not so much. The city was repeatedly attacked by powerful neighbors, especially Egypt and Syria. Everyone wanted control of this strategic hotspot. Now, let's jump to one of the darkest chapters in Jerusalem's history. In the 6th century BCE, the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar II marched in and besieged the city in 597 BCE. But the Jewish resistance sparked a big rebellion just 10 years later. Nebuchadnezzar came back, even harsher this time. In 587 BCE, he laid siege again, destroyed almost the entire city including Solomon's temple, and ordered the exile of the Jewish people to Babylon, far from their homeland. Jerusalem stayed under Babylonian rule for 40 more years until a king with a different vision entered the scene, Cyrus the Great of the Persian Empire. In a historic move, Cyrus allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their city and temple. Hope returned with this wave of freedom. For the next 200 years, waves of Jewish return continued, but full control of the city still wasn't theirs. Until 332 BCE, when a familiar name appears, Alexander the Great. During his conquest of Persia, he also captured Jerusalem. But as always, the Golden Age was brief. Alexander soon died, and his empire was divided among his generals. Jerusalem first fell under the Ptolemies in Egypt, then after decades of conflict, the Seleucids took control in 198 BCE. From Alexander's time on, Greek culture gradually spread in Jerusalem. Many Jews even adopted Greek lifestyles and beliefs. But drifting from Jewish tradition slowly sowed seeds of unrest that erupted in the 160s BCE. The story gets way more exciting from here. The big explosion in Jerusalem's history. After decades of cultural and religious pressure, the Jewish people's patience finally ran out. In the 160s BCE, a group of Jewish fighters called the Maccabees launched a massive rebellion. The result? The capture of Jerusalem in 164 BCE and the restoration of Jewish worship in the Holy Temple. This victory is still remembered today. Hanukkah is exactly the celebration of this event. After the Maccabees' victory, Jerusalem became the capital of a semi-independent region within the Seleucid Empire. But soon, it transformed into the full capital of an independent kingdom called the Hasmonean Kingdom, a government that lasted over 100 years. But independence doesn't last forever. And now, Jerusalem became the birthplace of another global religion. But Jerusalem's story wasn't over yet. It was entering an era full of revolts, oppression, and the rise of new faiths. As Judaism expanded and Christianity gradually formed, the still pagan Roman Empire felt threatened. In response, harsh restrictions were placed on both religions. Then in 66 CE, the people of Judea's patience snapped and the Great Revolt against Rome began. Jerusalem, as always, was the beating heart of resistance. After a 5-month siege, in 70 CE, Roman forces entered the city and nearly leveled everything. The Second Temple was destroyed, and only a part of its outer wall remained, what is now known as the Western Wall or Wailing Wall. But this wasn't the end. The Romans rebuilt the city and renamed it Aelia Capitolina. Jews were banned from entering the city except on a few special religious days. And again, in 132 CE, a new Jewish revolt erupted, this time brutally crushed like never before. Later, a temple to Jupiter, the Roman god, was built right where the Jewish temple once stood. But change was near. In the 4th century CE, Constantine the Great, the Roman emperor who had converted to Christianity, gave an important mission to his mother Helena. Go to Jerusalem and find the place where Jesus was crucified and buried. Helena succeeded, tearing down the Roman temple that was built there, and in 335 CE built something that remains one of Christianity's holiest sites today: the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Jerusalem had now become the beating heart of Christianity, especially during the Byzantine Empire, which controlled the city for about 300 years. But again, history never waits. At the beginning of the 7th century CE, a completely new power rose from the heart of the Arabian Peninsula: Islam. And very soon, Jerusalem became a holy city for Muslims as well. Why? Because it is believed that the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, made a miraculous night journey from Mecca to this city. And that's how Jerusalem became the center of a third world religion. If you're enjoying this journey with us, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next part of this amazing historical story, because next up, Jerusalem enters the Islamic era, the Crusades, the Ottomans, and the modern world. After the Prophet Muhammad's death in 632 CE, the Muslim world rapidly united and expanded. Just 6 years later, Caliph Umar reached the gates of Jerusalem, and without a major battle, the city peacefully surrendered. But this conquest was unlike any other. Under Islamic rule, Jerusalem saw true religious freedom. Christians stayed, Jews returned after 300 years of exile, and everyone was allowed to worship freely. A century later, Muslims built 2 incredible monuments: the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. And just like that, Jerusalem joined Mecca and Medina as one of the 3 holiest cities in Islam. But the peace didn't last long. In 969, the Fatimids took control and gradually imposed restrictions on non-Muslims. Then in 1009, they destroyed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, an act that shook the entire Christian world. Around this time, the Catholic and Orthodox churches had split, and both claimed ownership of Jerusalem. Eventually, in 1073, a new power arrived, the Seljuk Turks. And this was just the beginning of a story that would lead to the Crusades. With the Seljuks now in charge, the region plunged into instability. Reports began to spread that Christian pilgrims were being harassed on their way to Jerusalem. That threat pushed the Byzantine emperor to ask the West for help. But Pope Urban II had a bigger idea: a holy war to reclaim Jerusalem. And just like that, the First Crusade was launched. Thousands of knights and ordinary people from Europe marched toward the Holy Land. Meanwhile, the Fatimids had recaptured Jerusalem from the Seljuks, but their joy didn't last long. Because in July 1099, the Crusaders arrived, broke through the city walls, and unleashed a massive massacre. What happened next? Most Crusaders returned to Europe, but some stayed and established the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Al-Aqsa Mosque turned into a base for the Knights Templar. The Dome of the Rock became a Christian place of worship. Military orders like the Templars and Hospitallers formed to protect Christian pilgrims. But just as quickly as they took the city, they lost it. In 1187, a Muslim commander named Saladin crushed the Crusaders at the Battle of Hattin. After a one-week siege, he retook Jerusalem. Many churches were turned into mosques. But the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was preserved and handed over to the Greek Orthodox Church. After Saladin's victory, the Third Crusade began in 1190, led by Richard the Lionheart of England and Philip II of France. They managed to regain some territory, but not Jerusalem. In the 13th century, Crusaders tried again. Between 1229 and 1244, they briefly re-entered Jerusalem. But their success was short-lived. By 1291, the Mamluks, a powerful Islamic dynasty, had crushed the last Crusader strongholds. Now, Jerusalem was firmly back in the Islamic world. The Mamluks ruled for over 300 years, turning the city into a pilgrimage site for all three Abrahamic religions, though the Jewish and Christian populations had dwindled. Then, in 1516, the Ottoman Empire took control and made Jerusalem part of their vast empire. During the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, the famous city walls were rebuilt, and a new era of religious tolerance began. By the 19th century, Jerusalem was still stuck inside its ancient 1 square kilometer walls. But as the population grew, the city had to expand. New neighborhoods popped up outside the walls, Russians built churches, Jews returned, and dreams of a new nation began to take shape. Then came World War I. The Ottoman Empire fell, and the British took over Jerusalem. But Britain had made a big mistake. They promised the land to both Arabs and Jews. The result? Riots, unrest, and rising tensions through the 1920s and 30s. In 1947, the UN proposed splitting Palestine into two countries, and making Jerusalem an international city. But instead of peace, war broke out. After months of bloody fighting, Jerusalem was split in two, west to Israel, east, including the Old City, to Jordan. Since then, Jerusalem has remained a city of conflict and hope. If you're curious to see what happens next, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.